14 minutes before the top of the hour, y'all. We got Dr. MJ Collier on with us this morning with our COVID-19 updates. Dr. Collier, good morning.
Good morning, Rickey Smiley and all of the Rickey Smiley Morning Show listeners. We're here with your coronavirus update today. And let me tell you, Rickey, the numbers continue to climb. We are now approaching 4 million cases. We had 63,500 cases yesterday and over 1,000 deaths. And that was the first time in July that we have met that number. But remember, we were talking about that the death rate was lagging behind the number of cases. And now we're getting to see where when those cases increased 2 to 3 weeks ago, the death rate is now catching up. So the CDC issued new guidelines as to how people should conduct themselves. A lot of people are getting tested now, and they need to know. Before, the guidelines were that before you could return to work, if you had a positive test, you had to self-isolate for 14 days, and that you also had to have 2 negative tests within 24 hours. So the problem was, one, a lot of people couldn't get the third test once they had tested negative because hospitals and testing sites were just overwhelmed and they didn't want to waste a test on somebody who was already negative. So they stopped doing that. So the new guidelines that were issued by the CDC state that if you test positive, you should isolate for 10 days. From day one being the day that you tested positive for the coronavirus. So I'm running into that now, and when doing testing in my office, and I did a mass screening event yesterday, and I had to give instructions now. Okay, you tested today. You're isolating for 10 days if you have a known exposure. If not, we'll wait until we get your test results and then see, and then you'll isolate for 10 days after that. Now, if that's for people that are just being screened or asymptomatic persons, if a person is symptomatic, now we want them to isolate for 10 days, but also no longer 24 hours after that fever breaks. So if you have a fever, you still have to wait until you're at least 24 full hours with no fever, and that's no fever without medication. So no Tylenol, no Motrin, no Advil, no Aleve, to make sure that your fever has broken, and then you are clear to return to your workspace. So a lot of workplaces now are requiring documentation of a negative test, and also that they're asking me to clear people to return to work. And I'm only clearing people if they meet that criteria now. So it's a complicated situation. A lot of people at my mass screening event yesterday were symptomatic, and I had to explain to my staff because they were going into treatment mode. And I was saying, no, we're not treating anybody. We're only screening at this event. We treat people when we screen them at the office, which is why I prefer that they come to the office versus just being screened in the community. So that's where we are, Rickey, today. And your president said yesterday, finally, that it's going to get worse before it gets better. He did actively endorse isolation. He did actively endorse wearing masks and all of the things that everybody, including Dr. Fauci and his own coronavirus commission, have recommended. He's on board now, and I'm hoping that gets a lot of people in the United States active now and actively wearing their masks, because that's what it's going to take.
Hey, Dr. Collier, do you ever wear those masks that's kind of like an astronaut helmet with a little vacuum thing in the back? No, I'm serious.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, those are negative pressure. Those are negative pressure masks. No, those are usually used for high concentration areas like hospitals and intensive care units. No, what I do when I'm testing people and when I'm with a defined positive patient is I have my N95 mask on, I have my goggles, and I have a face shield. So those three things. Sometimes I wear a gown. It depends. But normally I'm not worried about necessarily my clothes getting contaminated as long as I have on gloves and I'm washing my hands. And I will remove my white lab coat or the paper gown covering the isolation gown if I'm wearing one in the appropriate manner so that I don't contaminate myself. But the main things are protecting the eyes and the face and the nose.
Have you seen those brand new electronic masks? Like they clear, but they kind of electronic. You know anything about those?
I have seen those, and there's thought that the electric charge kills the virus. And there are also some that have clear mouthpieces so that, and this is important, Rickey, because let's say you have a person that needs to read lips that are deaf and they can't see your mouth, or people just want people to see that their emotional expression, their body language, that they're smiling. So they have masks that have they're clear, but they still protect and cover your lips. But you can see the person's lips and you can see their facial impressions and appreciate those. So, yes, I have seen those, and those are, they're as protective as a cloth mask up there. Not necessarily sure about the electronic mask. They're not sure about the copper infused mask being better than the regular facial coverings. But again, as long as you cover your nose and your mouth and your eyes, you should be protected.
All right, y'all, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Dr. M.J. Collier. Go and throw that disclaimer in there.
Okay, very good. These are the opinions of Dr. M.J. Collier, not those of the Rickey Smiley Morning Show or its radio affiliates. I will be doing Facebook Live. Ask Dr. M.J. Call in and ask your healthcare questions. Go to Ask Dr. M.J. Facebook Live tonight, 7 p.m.